Police officers of Reddit, what was your "they could have gotten away with it if they had kept their mouth shut" moment? Currently watching live PD, and the guy told the officer, "I have caffeine pills in my back pocket," gets them out, puts them on the hood, everyone's chill. Dude then comes clean and says it's Molly, and the officers look at each other and go, "Do we even have a test kit for that?" Other officer says, "No, dude's face just shows he should have kept his mouth shut." Edit, spelling and grammar. No a police officer, but I do know of this house in my local village that was a notorious drug den. The police came to search the place but couldn't find anything. As they were leaving, the lovely owner yelled at them that they should have brought the drug dogs. So yeah, they came back a few days later with the drug-sniffing dogs and found huge amounts of drugs hidden away. Absolute morons. This one made me laugh. A cousin of a friend of mine travels around the state to take in deadbeat dads. Gets to one place, a 4-year-old kid is home, dad isn't. So the cop starts talking to the kid, making sure he's okay and such. After a bit of this, kid says to cop, "Want to see my dad's secret garden?" Takes him to a closet with a full spack, opens it up to see a small pot farm. Guy gets home to a few cop cars and a few charges. Not a police officer, but my mom once managed to talk her way into a lesser fine for a traffic offense, but wasn't satisfied with that, so managed to sat her way right back into the full fine. Sigh. Done that. Got to know when to hold and fold. And sometimes you learn that lesson the hard way. I've had countless times where dudes give consent to search them or the vehicle and they end up having drugs. It baffles me why you would let me search if you don't have to, knowing there's some damn heroin in your car, LMAO. Serious. What is the proper way to handle this? If you give consent and the officer looks, he may find nothing. If you tell them no consent, they bring a dog or create probable cause and they look harder, thinking you have something to hide, or the dog finds the drugs. If an officer asked and you know you have drugs, what is the correct way to go about this? I'm a nice guy and I enjoy a chat. You'd be surprised how much this lowers someone's guard. Stood in full uniform, people will just start telling you things that could get them in trouble. Multiple times I had to tell people to shut up. It was usually petty things like where they hid their weed stash that they'd got a gift in their pocket for later. Not really worth the time and effort to deal with how skeezed we were. One time a guy really got himself in trouble by effectively telling me he had stolen property on him. I had to act on that one. Not a cop, but have a buddy that is. Nothing too crazy, but he's had countless moments where he's tried to give people a break, or all they had to do was sit down and be quiet, but they end up talking themselves into jail. Recently had a dude he pulled over that was a bit over the limit, but not too much, so he was gonna let a friend pick him up instead of arresting him. Guy got to talking and basically revealed driving under the influence was something he did fairly regularly. A single mistake is one thing, but my buddy decided the best chance at getting him to stop would be learning this lesson the hard way. This is going to be buried, but it's funny, so here. I was a cop on an Air Force base in Alaska. 3 guys robbed our Class 6 store liquor and we responded to the store but got caught in traffic at a light on the way. So we were sitting there with lights and sirens on trying to get people to move out of the way when the back door to the car ahead of us opens and a guy gets out and goes spread eagle against his trunk. Confused, we get out to see what was up and realize that these were the robbers. Edit, thank you for the silver. So after calling it in and making the arrests, we told them that we had no idea they were who they were. The driver and front passenger were pretty upset with the backseat passenger. Not a cop but a witness. During college, my friends and I would hang out outside and smoke hookah. Frequently we would invite strangers who pass by to join, or campus police would casually chat with us as they made their rounds. So one time a group of freshmen walked past and asked to join. After about 15 minutes the campus police car rolls up and the freshmen get visibly nervous. We tell them calm down, the cops are chill. As soon as the cop gets out of the car, one freshman bolts and makes it about 20 feet before the cop tackles him. We all clap and heckle the kid. Upon searching him, the cop finds a bunch of weed. Then he says, "You realize prior to running, I had no reason to be suspicious. I just wanted to talk to my friends over there," and points at us. The cop ends up writing a ticket and sends him off. In college, a buddy and I drove out to a house party only for it to get busted as soon as we arrived. In attempt to show my friend how cool I was, I started antagonizing one of the officers from the passenger seat of my buddy's car that was parked on the side of the street, telling him that I'd sent him the address to the next party, that kind of thing. We go back and forth until the cop asks my friend move his car into the driveway. He asks for identification and runs my license. After about 30 minutes he hands me a max fine ticket for a seatbelt violation. Clever bastard saw I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he had my friend move his car a couple feet so he could ticket me. Absolutely never admit to any crime without a lawyer present. Just because you know you did it and the cops know you did it doesn't mean it'll hold up in court or that they'll think it's worth the time to prosecute it. You don't need them to think you're a good guy who made an understandable mistake. You need to stay out of a cage. Keep your mouth shut. The only word you should be saying is lawyer. Former cop here. We always had a statement that we used if we ever got in trouble, and it applies to anyone. No poly, no waiver, no statement. Basically, never consent to take a polygraph. Never waive your rights and never make a statement. You may think you're doing yourself a favor by answering questions and trying to be helpful, but more often than not you'll end up digging your own grave. Be polite about it, but respectfully refuse anything until you've spoken to a lawyer. Not a police officer. But here's a story from Dr. William Bass' autobiography that fits. There's this place at the University of Tennessee called the Body Farm, or the Anthropological Research Facility, but Body Farm is cooler. Basically what they do there is leave human bodies out in the woods to decompose and study that. So these drink guys once climbed the fence to the Body Farm, saw a corpse, and called 911 to report a possible murder. Cops show up and arrest the drunk guys. The guys couldn't understand why they were being arrested. They just kept saying, "We didn't kill him." High school economics teacher was former cop. He told two stories a couple times. One was never tell someone it's only at 22 he was shot, and never tell anyone anything. His story was a truck pulled up to an ATM. One of the ones in the middle of a parking lot had covered all identifiable marks of truck, generic common truck, and hooked up a winch to the ATM, took the ATM with them, and 100% got away with it. He said they had no idea who it was and had zero leads. Days later they got a call from someone telling them about a group of guys bragging about it at a party. They went and picked him all up the next day. Not a cop. But my dad retired recently. He was called in on a murder case of a drug deal love triangle gone wrong. The original two lovers bring the third to do drugs and sexy time. Something goes wrong, so partner one shoots and kills the third wheel. Partner 1 and 2 put a third wheel in a larger plastic container and bury it in the basement, which had dirt floors. They were scheduled to get concrete poured over the dirt. The third wheel was an out-of-towner and didn't have any family, so no one asked questions. Partner 1 and 2 get into a fight. Partner 1 calls the cops and confesses that Partner 2 killed someone and that he buried him in the basement. Both ended up getting charged and eventually convicted.